Hey, everyone. Gonna get my screen up here. Give me 1 second. I think we're streaming everywhere. I got everything set up during the 5-minute countdown. We're live on Facebook. We're live on Twitter. We're live on YouTube. We're live on LinkedIn. And we're live here on Crowdcast with Chris George. He's, actually, let me pull up my screen here and do some quick introductions. Here we go. So Chris, who are you and why are you just so darn passionate about subscriptions?
Well, thanks, Jay. Thanks a ton for having me on this webinar with you. But I am the co-founder and chairman of SUBTA, which is the Subscription Trade Association. I started with co-founding and the CEO of the Gentleman's Box back in 2014. So I was an early adopter into the subscription space. And from there, went on to building the largest event in the industry called Sub Summit, as well as the trade organization SUBTA. And I have a passion for helping entrepreneurs build businesses and find profitability through subscriptions. And one, I want to thank you for being such a great partner to SUBTA. You got a great product and building some great technology over there and helping brands manage those subscriptions. So again, thanks for having me on and excited for this today.
Well, thanks for being here, man. Let me actually bring up let me maximize this a little bit here because I want to, just in case anyone is actually wondering about SUBTA, you guys should all be able to see the website here. Yeah. SUBTA is a fantastic resource, and just one of the reasons why we are such believers in it and partners with you guys is you're genuinely trying to help subscription brands grow and have healthier, stronger businesses. And I am blown away by like the content and the materials and the resources. If anyone watching hasn't been on subta.com, I don't know, Chris, can you kind of give me like a quick high level? What is SUBTA? What are some of the benefits and why might someone want to check it out?
For sure. So we've built SUBTA to be the leading resource for all things direct to consumer subscription. So daily we're coming out with new articles, workbooks, videos, content to help you grow your business. And you can join SUBTA for free. There's also a paid membership and that's only $100 a year. And that gets you perks like access to gated content, discounts at our events. And really, we try to make it almost free, right? At like nearly less than $10 a month. You can learn so many things that can really help you grow your business, access to suppliers. And again, we built this because we wanted to build a community in this super fast growing space. D2C subscriptions are growing faster than ever. More and more brands are pivoting to the model. And we want to be that go-to resource so that we can help you grow and build your business.
Yeah. And so, I mean, if anyone watching, check it out. It's just subta.com. You guys do so much. It's hard to actually keep track of it with your Sub Summit, with the content, it seems like every time I go on social media, you're launching something new. Now you're doing the subscription teardowns, or I can't remember what you call them, but you're basically analyzing.
Yeah, we do subscription reviews. Yep. Where we'll look at brands and literally go through the whole customer experience from the first time of landing on the website, the whole checkout process, the delivery, because, and we'll talk about this, but as you know, subscriptions are about the experience. So we're trying to help brands really, really find that and help them succeed.
Perfect. Yeah. Awesome. So definitely check it out. That's Chris. I'm Jay, in case anyone's wondering. I'm with Bold. I'm one of the co-founders of Bold. And one of the big things we do at Bold is subscriptions. And I personally am very passionate about subscriptions. And that's why you'll always see me talking about it. I know people always say like, well, doesn't Bold do a lot of things? It's, we're a 400 and something person company. And I bet you a good 150, maybe 200 of our team is actually dedicated towards subscriptions, from development and from our marketing to our support and our account managers. And so it's a big part of what we do at Bold. What we're diving in today, actually, sorry, there's a couple ground rules I wanted to just say. If anyone has any questions, no matter where you're watching, just go ahead and type them in wherever you are. If that's on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, we're going to have all the questions feed. I've got a screen down here I can see. It is great if you click the link to actually join the webinar on Crowdcast, which is the platform we're using. That way you can ask questions. There's some polls. And then we'll also make sure you get a copy of the recording after. So again, feel free to watch it wherever you're watching right now, but it is good if you join so then we can actually send you the recording after. And we'll probably answer some of the questions during them. But if not, we'll definitely answer all of them at the end. So just feel free to type them as we're going along. And it is being recorded. So if you have to go to the bathroom or leave for any reason, no stress. So Bold. So what we're diving in today is we recently released what we called our 2021 subscription trends and drivers of success report. And what it is, and actually if some of the guys on Bold side can paste the links in the comments right now, you can grab it for free. It's a report. We have around 20,000 brands using Bold subscriptions. We looked at the data across all of them. We personally interviewed 800 of them. And then we pulled the data and tried to find trends and data of drivers of success. So it's not necessarily a report on like what's happening in the world of subscriptions. It's more like honing in on what drives success for some of those brands. Chris contributed to it. He's got a couple quotes in there. You'll see his face and some of his quotes on the sides. And so we're going to dive into some of the findings today and get Chris's insights. And our hope with this webinar is that there's some learnings that if you are running a subscription program or thinking about starting it, that you guys will get a few solid, actionable takeaways to make your subscription program better. So without further ado, let's jump in here. Let me get back to here we go. Oh, I should have had this up while I was talking, but anyways, I think I covered everything that was on the slide. Yes, landscapes, trends. There will be a couple follow-up webinars as well too. I'll mention this now, and I'm going to talk about it at the end. But with a couple other partners that contributed, SUBTA was a big one. The guys at Yachtpo, ProfitWell, Klaviyo, they also contributed as well too. So the big thing I want to start with is subscriptions is I don't want to say new, but in like 2011, we were talking, it was like a sub $1 billion industry. Today it's a multi-billion dollar industry. It's been growing. I got some of the stats here, but it's essentially been growing almost 100% year over year. It seems to be picking up faster even now. So I guess, Chris, why? I mean, you've devoted your life to subscriptions. What, from your perspective, what's happening in the world of subscriptions right now?
Yeah. And you bring up a good point, right? These existed, like, right? You had magazines, you had Book of the Month Club, you had the old CD Columbia House, right?
Yeah.
But what we're seeing now is more and more brands are pivoting to this model because it's about building a community, about building an experience, and about building a relationship with the consumer. More than ever, there's more brands than ever. There's more online businesses than ever. And, I think that there's a few things too. Looking at the next generation of consumers, the Gen Zs, they're about usage over ownership, right? Like, my dad thinks it's crazy that I lease a car every couple of years. Well, it's like, I want a new car, right? But like, he wants to buy one. And so like, as you're thinking about the generations that are coming up, they want to pay for things as they use them.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's less upfront money. They don't want to have to own certain things, like, right? Less and less of the next generation owns homes. They want to travel. They want to work on the beach. They're going city to city. And so we're just seeing that the consumer is more about usage over ownership. I know we're going to get into that a little bit, but
yep.
I think it's a big reason why we're seeing it now. And you need to build a relationship with the consumer, especially when you have the big elephants in the room, the Walmarts, the Amazon.com. You've got to compete with these brands. And in order to do that, you got to build a relationship with the consumer.
Can you, if someone's watching right now and thinking they're not, maybe they think their brand or their product or their vertical doesn't make sense for subscriptions. Is there anything you can kind of say to maybe expand people's minds on what they think what might be a subscription? That kind of inspire them a little bit. I
mean, look, it's interesting. I when I talk at events or I might talk at a school, I challenge the group to be like, tell me what you do and I'll build a subscription around it. But then you think about it again, it's like, it's actually take away this term subscription and think about it as a relationship. And what kind of value can you bring to a consumer that's going to pay you monthly or quarterly or weekly or whatever that cadence is, and get them to think about only using your service, right? I mean, like I could go down the line of different industries, but if I were to go to like, let's say I were to kind of go off the wall a little bit. Let's say somebody was a nail tech, right? People would like to get their nails done weekly or bi-weekly. If you build a subscription with them where maybe they pay you for the month and that gets them like 2 or 3, I don't know the right term there, but 2 or 3 times to come in and get your nails done. Well, that consumer is not going to go anywhere else to get it done, right? Because they've got the relationship with you. You throw in a few more perks, discounts off products. Like now you've provided value to the consumer, you've built a relationship, and now when they think that they need to get something done, they're going to you for it, right? And again, that was I wanted to use that example because it's probably something that's not quite in that space yet, but it could be. And that's how I think individuals should be thinking about it. How can I get the consumer to spend their share of wallet within a specific vertical with me as opposed to somebody else? Yeah.
And I'm seeing subscriptions in areas that gone are the days of like, oh, I don't sell shampoo or I don't sell coffee or I don't sell deodorant. My product's not a refill. I got nothing they can subscribe to. Like, I think you hit it on the head with it's about the relationship and it's about value. And, there's like, we just saw, well, just last week, Best Buy launched their subscription offering. And we're seeing it across like every brand, like, clothing stores. Lululemon just launched theirs. Like I think they want to turn the customer into a member, because members you have a different relationship with than a customer. Actually, what are your thoughts on that Best Buy news? I don't know if you've been following that.
Yeah, no, I haven't. What was it? And I can tell you, what did they end up doing?
Well, I mean, they launched a Best Buy membership. I don't know the exact details of it, but it's similar to Amazon Prime and Walmart Plus. Is it called Walmart Plus? They're doing, yeah.
Yeah. So I think look, it probably makes sense. They're trying to compete, right? Because like if you think about it, like what end up like the chatter around Best Buy like years ago was like, oh, Best Buy is just a showroom for Amazon, right? Like you'd go there, see a TV you want, and then you go to Amazon.com, order it, gets delivered for free. So I'm assuming that makes sense. Like they want to build the relationship and keep the consumer to buy from them as opposed to having the excuse to go to Amazon because they're going to get 2-day delivery and they're going to get the best price, and Amazon needs to compete. So it makes sense that they did that. It'd be interesting to think though, like, are people going to pay for that, right? Because like, again, how many memberships are you going to have? How do you earn share of wallet? They're going to have to come up with some other experiences to compete.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the things that I always kind of look at with stores is value. And so when you think about what a customer actually gets, like Amazon Prime is actually a great example. When you are whatever you think of Amazon, evil company, great company, whatever, Prime is a great example of a membership that offers so much value that it's got to be one of the stickiest memberships ever created, because they just raised the price up in Canada. I think it's now $99 a year, but you're free shipping, Prime Video, Prime Music, Prime Photo Storage, Prime regular storage, all kinds of other benefits. And, Best Buy actually is in a good position where they could layer in, like they have their, what's it called? Geek Squad for like computer repairs. They could offer, every time you buy something at Best Buy, they want to sell you the warranty plan. Maybe that comes free for, if you're a Best Buy Plus member. I'm sure exactly.
The manufacturer one's extended by a year or something like that. Yeah, smart.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, so let's dive into kind of one of the first findings here. Yeah, do I have the right screen up? Give me 1 second here. There we go. Okay. One of the first findings was this was what there's a lot of findings, but one of the ones we found interesting was 71% of the people that we spoke to said that subscriptions are an extremely important part to the health of their business. And 82% of brands that tried subscriptions in the past and failed are saying that they're going to potentially try it again. So I guess that's not, well, first of all, in your view, why would you say subscriptions are, why do they see it as such an important part of their future if they're doing it? And even if they're not doing it, they're considering doing it again.
Yeah. So as you know, I mean, with subscriptions, you've got predictable income that allows for understanding cash flow, understanding inventory management. And these things are really critical to a business, right? You're not just dependent on seasonality where, oh, we're going to just survive for 8 months. Holidays are going to come and we're going to make our money those 3 months. Like, you're building a relationship with the consumer that revenue is consistently coming in every single month. And I think that's critical. I think that it's also, again, going to where consumer behavior is going, right? You look at Microsoft Office. You used to spend $500 for the program. Now you pay for a monthly. Right. You used to have to pay $7 to rent a DVD or $5 to rent a DVD, and now you just pay monthly. You get streaming to all these movies, right? So I think that that's where consumer behavior is going towards. That's why it makes sense. But then financially, and the health of the business is the predictable income, that known revenue coming in, and also inventory management. And then the brand's thinking about going back and doing it. I mean, absolutely, right? Like, they're seeing that the trend's working. I believe that those that failed probably failed because it's another beast, right? This isn't typical e-commerce. Yeah. There's an experience that comes along with an e-commerce website, with a subscription website that you don't get on the e-commerce side. I mean, 2 years ago, you were flying people through the checkout process, right? Like, simplest page, boom, click, one click. Now with subscriptions, you're trying to get their data. You're trying to build a relationship with the consumer. You're making them make micro commitments. This is a different business model. And being able to predict inventory for those subscriptions and how that affects cash flow. And I think that it wasn't easy for e-commerce brands to just pivot this model. I've seen some of the biggest well-known brands fail at this. And that's also why we built SUBTA, right? Because we want to be able to help people be able to do this.
I want to dive into something you just said there, because I know we spoke about this actually on a podcast recently that you were on, about flying through the checkout versus now that thought has kind of changed a little bit on that. That might actually be why some of the brands, because one of the questions I wanted to ask was, for the brands that failed that are willing to try again, what are some things they can try different, or maybe advice so they maybe don't fail the next time? Yeah. What are some advice? I know you have some thoughts around, you call them microtransactions.
Yeah, micro commitments. So
sorry, micro commitments.
You get the consumer to, like, you start to ask them questions, right? So, like, what's your name? And then it's like, I'll give you an example. Maybe your what would be an example? Okay, let's just say you're a beauty brand. So the questions might be like, what's your skin color shade? What are you into, eyeliner or lipsticks? What are you trying to, like, maybe improve on with your style, right? Like, you're starting to gather this data. Now the consumer on the other side is now fully engaged, right? They're like, when they start making these micro commitments, they're like committing to, like, potentially getting through the full purchase process. At the same point, the brand is now gathering data. And at some point, you're going to ask for an email before checkout. They leave. You've now got their email to hit them up afterwards. And then because they're making those micro commitments, it allows for a better opportunity to convert. I've A/B tested this with several brands. We did checkout versus straight checkout versus a questionnaire of micro commitments. And the micro commitments one converted better. And on top of that, we got data. On the consumer, which is like tremendous value.
Because even then, if they don't convert, you still can follow up. Actually, I was just pulling up an example. I just had to quickly find it because I didn't have it ready. But Kongbox is one of our brands. They use both subscriptions, and they do a really good job of this. So they sell a dog subscription box, and when you go to get started, first thing they ask is your dog's name. You put in Lucky, and I think on the next one it actually is your email. So yeah, so then it's type in your email, and then they go through and they ask a bunch of questions like, how big is your dog? Is your dog active? They get all this data, and it's actually like 10 clicks before they get to the process of subscribing. But you're each step along the way, you're committing.
The other thing cool about Kongbox is, like, look, they get your dog's birthday. Why are they doing that? It's like, on their birthday, you're going to send an email like, happy birthday, King. Like, this is an experiment. This is an experience, which, like, you're not getting on a typical e-commerce level. I also think too, like, Yeah, having a name. So watch what happens here. You're going to see who's Lucky's owner. Now see how automatically the next question put his name in there? Like, this is a cool experience. It's funny, we did a review on Kongbox, and they're doing a great job over there. But this is like you're committed in, right? It's like, you know what kind of proved this out? Do you remember on Facebook, it was like really popular to be like, which celebrity do you look like? And like you'd go through and answer these questions, or like, what's your superpower? And like you'd ask you all these questions, like you start to get pot committed, and like you want to find out. So it works.
And it also makes you feel like when you get to this point that it's curated for you. So and for anyone watching, we've seen people implement something like this without any development knowledge. So, you know, Kongbox has done a great job of building this into their site. They are running a Shopify store, and they've actually built this just using custom pages. And then at the end, it just presents the subscription option. But I've seen people do this using Jotform, Typeform, various different ways that at the end, you might only have 5 different options that someone can subscribe to. All you have to do is at the end, link them to that particular one, but the customer feels like they've got something that's curated.
Yeah, super smart.
So then, is there anything else? Like, so on the failed side, so for the 82% of people that didn't have success and they want to try it again, what are some things you have seen that brands have done that they can do better?
You know what? I think it's understanding that you're not taking a product, throwing it in a brown box and shipping it to them. Like there's so much more, right? Because the customer journey and experience starts from the very first time they see one of your ads. And then they land on the page. And then the UX on that page, to the checkout process, to the confirmation email, to the time from the product was shipped to the time that it's delivered, and then post-delivery experience. This is very different than what it was 4, 5, 6 years ago. You used to buy a shirt, they threw it in the bag, got delivered, it was in a brown box, you're like, cool. Now it's like, what's that experience like? What's the packaging look like? How did it arrive on my front porch? Are there hashtags? Are people now taking pictures with it? Are we encouraging them to take pictures with it? Are we building a community? I mean, you look at FatFitFun, their consumers are having box opening parties.
Yeah.
Right. So the subscribers are getting together with their boxes and opening them together.
Yeah.
Like what kind of, like that's how you build a business, right? So that wasn't typical 5, 6 years ago. You didn't do that. You were just like order, sweet, ship, transactional, boom, revenue. Like now you have to measure LTV, ROAS, right? I mean, you talked about this. Like the ROAS is not the same. You're not going to spend $100,000 on Facebook ads and get 150,000 in revenue when you're selling a subscription. You're probably going to sell 150. You're going to spend 150 to get 100, and you're waiting for the renewals. So they got to be able to build that model, and it's just different.
Yeah, I love it. Let's pop. Actually, a couple of questions let me just check here if this one's related to. A couple questions are coming in. Can you talk about apps or resources that help create the marketing and community interaction around subscriptions? It's one thing to have it, which there seem to be a lot of resources for adding management of subscriptions, but it's another thing to get signups. So related to your kind of comments around community, what are some best practices or tools or ways people can build that?
Yeah. So, you see it a lot, like it starts with like a Facebook group, right? I think that's one of the easiest ways to start one. And it's just about really communicating that exists, right? So right at checkout, the thank you page should have, hey, join our Facebook group. Like come to our community. The confirmation email, join the community with like clips from like discussions within that group. Post delivery, once it's delivered, follow up email with a survey. Oh, by the way, join the Facebook group. Like, want to learn more about how to style yourself? Like, check out our, Chris George's subscription Facebook group, right? Like, it's just like you want to communicate that well, and then you can start to use that community to help make the better decisions for the future, right? So give them incentive. Hey, like, if you join our Facebook group, we'll give you sneak peeks in the future boxes. We'll ask for your feedback. now you're giving them some value and you're building a community, and then they think that they're getting involved with the decision of the future boxes or future product. So that's one of the easiest ways is like start a Facebook group and just consistently be communicating that it exists and telling them to join different parts of the process.
Yeah. And to this question, Lindsay, who asked this, I think too, like there's, I heard Robbie Kilman Baxter say this and I really liked it. There's a half-life to excitement. When someone buys your subscription to the point that they get it, like the excitement normally will slowly go down. They'll get it and they're not going to be raving about it 6 months from now, but you need to maximize on that half-life. So when they order it, like you just mentioned, start curating them with information about the product. So like tell them why they're going to enjoy it. Tell them why they're going to love it. Point them to the communities that they can join. Maybe your community and other communities. If you just subscribed to some nutritional product, tell them, here's what's going to start happening to your body over the next month or 30 days as you know, because it's like when you understand about wine and how it's made, you enjoy it more. It's like any product. Right. So I think use that time from the time they place that order to the time they get their first subscription to educate them and give them knowledge about the product. They're going to just enjoy it more, and then they're going to refer more people. Yeah. Someone's asking, is it possible to sandbox the customer journey within the Bolt subscription app and Shopify? I'm not 100% sure I understand that question, but I'm assuming to test it. Yes, it is.
Sandbox it. What was it?
Yeah, well, to sandbox the whole customer journey experience within the Bolt subscription app and Shopify. So I'm assuming that's like to test.
Yeah, I would probably A/B test different paths, right? They could do something like that. You probably know better than I would on this, but
yeah, I'll just say this: like you should always subscribe to your own products and go through every single flow of buying it, getting it, opening the box, getting your emails. Request a return with your support team, like dog food, eat your own dog food, right? Like you want to go through the same experience that everyone else would when they buy your product. Let's pull this back up here, and I want to jump to the next one. This is actually a quote that is in the report. I'll just read it out here. Subscriptions are more competitive than 5 years ago. Brands that have meaning and that are building a community are proven to be the most successful. Today's consumer is about usage over ownership. And this means that you need to pivot your brand into something that they can pay for monthly without commitment. So I guess, well, first of all, this is a great quote. If anyone has the report, you'll see it in it. What is it? Okay, you talked a little bit about building a community. What does it mean to be a meaningful community? Versus just a community?
I think that's a great question. I think it goes back to, are you engaging with the community as like the owner one and as the brand, right? So are you going to them for feedback? Are you like I think it's very important if you're a brand, because I believe that consumers buy brands that they believe in and that have meaning and have purpose versus just a product, right? We can all buy a hoodie from somebody. But brands that are consistently engaged on social, communicating with them, when somebody posts about them, they're right on top of that, commenting, thank you, going to them for feedback, being super responsive with customer service on social and within just like your regular customer service sort of communication. All these things are so important, right? And it's like, that was like the success of like, similar to the success of like Chewy, right? So I talk about this a lot. Chewy.com sells dog food and pet food. Well, so does Petco and so does Amazon. It's like, how are we going to compete with them? But no, they built such a strong experience on the customer service side, such a strong community that if you were to call Amazon.com and say, I have an 85-pound husky who's got stomach issues, what kind of food should I get them? They wouldn't know the answer to the question. You were to call Chewy.com, they're going to have an expert there. If you were to buy dog food from Chewy.com and then you call them and say, hey, my dog doesn't like it, they tell you to donate it to a local rescue instead of returning it. this is all part about building a community, building an experience. And, that's what allowed them to get purchased. I don't know what, 3.5 billion or whatever the case may be. But like that community they built, being super active on social. I think in 2017, they hand wrote 1 million thank you cards for the holidays, or just not thank you cards, but just like they hand wrote 1 million holiday cards to their customers. It's an insane thing to do. Right. And so that's building a community that's being super engaged with them.
Yeah. I think I heard someone say one time, when you have people, when you're standing and you're constantly putting out content and whatever, that's not necessarily a community. But when community helps each other, like you mentioned, FabFitFun, they have their unboxing parties, and that's the customers doing it themselves. Like, I don't even think FabFitFun organizes that. That's just customers. That's the definition of a great community. And then just really quickly before we go on the next slide, the last two words there kind of stood out for me on this quote. You had without commitment. A lot of people try to lock people into long commitments with subscriptions. They try to lock them into a year, which is fine, and not against that. You give a discount if someone knows they want to subscribe. But what are your thoughts on the whole cancellation process? Like, what a store listing, how can they do that excellently?
I think that you have to allow people to cancel easily, but not without making sure you gather data through that process. And also let them know that there are other options. For example, there are some really big brands I know that you go to hit cancel, says thank you. But you need to find out why. Because one, it allows you to make better decisions for the future. And two, it might allow you to recognize that there's a better product for the consumer. For example, let's say that usually people cancel for one of 3 reasons. We might list 6 for them to pick from, but 1 and 3 are pretty common. It's number 1, I can't afford it. Number 2, I don't like it. And number 3, that I have too many items. I'm getting too much of the product. I'll say this for the sake of a subscription box, but I've got too much stuff, right? They got product fatigue. So if somebody clicks number 1 or number 3, why not give them an opportunity to change their cadence and get the box every 3 months or every other month or every 4 months, as opposed to getting it every single month? You've now sort of like combated 2 of the reasons they wanted to cancel. 1, they couldn't afford it. Now they're paying less for it. And number 2, that they're not getting as much product, so they're not getting product fatigue, right? And now if somebody clicks, they don't like it. Let's find out why. What didn't you like about it? Was the shipping slow? Were the products? Did you not think you were getting the value? And then after they answer those questions, it's like, great, thank you so much for being a member. We hope that you come back. But now you got some data that's going to allow you to make better decisions for the future. It can't be just 1 click to cancel, and it can't be 30 clicks to cancel, right? It's like this nice equal medium there. 1 or 2 questions, gathered some data. And one thing that's for sure, absolute, somebody cancels, it's an immediate trigger to customer service. Because I believe that if you can reach out to somebody fairly quickly, even on a personal level, it'll mean a lot. Like, hey, I'm so sorry to see you go. If you ever feel, if there's anything we can do to make our process better, we'd love your feedback. If you ever decide to come back, here's a 10% off coupon code. We appreciate you were a member. I can't tell you how I used to hustle that out when I first started Gentleman's Box. I used to respond to emails Sunday at 10 p.m. And I can't tell you how many people would say, I can't believe you responded this quickly. And you know what? I want to sign back up just because of the customer service. Yeah.
I always think it's you should be thankful when you get a customer that wants to cancel or that's upset. It's interesting. The people that will be the most upset will also be the biggest raving fan if you can turn them around. The person that just orders, gets their product, nothing goes wrong, they don't have anything to complain about. It's not, you didn't fix anything. They're not going to necessarily rave about you on social media, but if something does go wrong and then you go out of your way to make it right, then you're giving them something to go and tell the world about. So you almost should be thankful when, like, if something does happen or if something does go wrong, you've got this golden opportunity to make it right, where, with another customer, when nothing goes wrong, you don't have that opportunity. So to maximize it. The next slide here this was an interesting, so what you're looking at right here, just for those watching, this is on the left-hand side, what we called early adopters to the subscription model. So this food and beverage, technology, style, fashion, and beauty tended to adopt subscriptions earlier than some of the other verticals. This is aggregate across a lot of thousands of stores. What we're noticing is, well, I don't think this is a huge surprise, but faster growth among the newer, like the later adopters. So like some of the verticals coming into the subscription space are now growing rapidly. They're kind of all still growing, but they're growing rapidly. Now, the ones I wanted to kind of hone in on here, clearly food and beverage is the biggest winner of all, and that makes sense. But some of the ones near the bottom, if there's, anyone listening in maybe the beauty space, health, fitness, educational, even automotive, some of these verticals where you just don't have that like perfect product that's like the same thing every single month. What are some thoughts around ways that a subscription offering can still be implemented for brands like this or improved on?
Yeah. So, well, one thing I'm wondering on the health and fitness side, do you think that accounts like the gym memberships?
Good question. It's a big vertical.
Yeah, right. Because
yeah.
I can imagine that couldn't. It's harder for that to grow, right? Because those were already monthly, and so like it might make it a little bit harder to grow. But I'm sorry, Jay. What's the question again? Like, what
are some of the ways that you think some of the verticals near the bottom can improve? So anyone watching who is in
Here's the thing. I mean, God, they all have really good growth still, right?
Yeah, exactly.
When you're thinking about beauty, like it's just saturated. It's a lot of beauty subscriptions. I think that if a beauty subscription wants to maybe set itself apart, let's say like an Ipsy versus a Birchbox versus, I mean, there's a ton of them, right? Like, what other value can they bring to the consumer outside of just sending them, let's say, the makeup? Can they give them access to a digital subscription that shows them tutorials on how to put the makeup on or how to style? And that's included, right? So like, what other value can they bring that can sort of separate them? Can they also like incorporate some experiences? Like maybe a style and fashion brand every year selects 40 members to the New York Fashion Show. Again, I'm making some stuff up literally on the fly right now, but building an experience can be, that could be really beneficial. I mean, people like to win things, people like to get involved. And now, imagine that experience. Imagine giving 40 members that experience of going to a New York Fashion Show and them talking about it and what that does for the brand, right? That might be a way I see it. I think on the health and fitness side, like, gosh, I have to believe that there's some low-hanging fruit there. I mean, with Mirror, Peloton, like these should be booming. Less people want to go to the gyms. There should be like, I mean, I actually think the number's low because like that industry is already like booming and it's just like harder for it to grow.
It could be. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. Right. And then like the sporting good growth makes sense because like pre-COVID, you were going to a sporting goods store, and like now with COVID, you were not going to stores, you were doing more outdoor activities. So like, I think that makes a lot of sense. And then I think really it comes down to the style. If I'm looking at these, it's the style and fashion and beauty, them adding an experience. Those are very two competitive spaces. How can they add some experiences that provide more value? And you talk a lot about this, Jay, about like the 3 times the value of what they purchase. And that doesn't always have to come in the form of product, right? It can come in the form of other things. So that's what I would recommend. Yeah.
I think if I had to add something to this, it would be, think about like there's 3 categories of subscriptions. There's replenishment, curation, and access. As a whole, it falls down into curation actually makes up about 55%, replenishment 33%, and access 13%. That now when most people just think of replenishment like that, their head's stuck in this replenishment box. But when you open it up to curation and access, I think might be one of the biggest untapped things that we're going to start seeing a lot more of. So if you can give your customers access to, there's literally no brand that can't do access. So access to content on your website because they're a member, access to, if you're a founder and you have a lot of knowledge, like let's say you sell bikes. Like it literally could be you buy a bike and then you are for $25 a month, you now have access to once a month Zoom call with the founder. Anytime you get access to 5% off accessories for the rest of your life, or anything for the rest of your life. You get access to exclusive groups. When new products come out, you get them before other people do. When there's events like bike races and there's meetups, like whatever it is, exclusive races that only for members, like you don't even have to have a product. It can just be wrapped around a product.
Jay, you just made me think of another idea, brand partnerships, right? So like you as a member to let's say okay, I'm gonna think of another, like let's say as a member to a Gentleman's Box was a perfect example. As a member to Gentleman's Box, you had got GQ magazine for free, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or let's say it's a traveler subscription. As a member, we send you this, it's a quarterly subscription. We send you cool travel accessories. Oh, by the way, you get 10% off Delta every time you fly. Like adding in a partnership perk could also set them apart and help them grow.
100%. Like those health and fitness brands, they should strike a deal with like all the local yoga and fitness clubs. And if you are subscribing to their product, you get 10% off at their gym. You get a month free at their gym. Or
get a discount using Class Pass, right? So then they're like all across the US. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
Great idea.
Yeah. So the whole subscription, I call it the value stack. I think that's one of the things, like if anyone listening, if I could get something through, it would be to think of all the different aspects of value that your subscription can add to a customer. It's actually rarely just the product. And if it is just the product, like sometimes I ask brands, if I took the product out, would your customer cancel? And probably 95% of the time they would. Like if I'm subscribed to coffee every month, and if that coffee doesn't come, well, I'm probably going to cancel. But if I subscribe to coffee, and because I'm subscribed to that coffee, I get exclusive, like once a month, I get 50% off any other flavor of my choice. I get access to new flavors before anyone else. I get access to exclusive coffee group, and like maybe the head roaster comes on and shows how the coffee's made, and there's a partnership. I get 20% off at some related partner that coffee drinkers would like, and on and on and on. Well, now if I don't get that coffee, I might actually not cancel my subscription because there's so much other value in it. So that's the thing I think a lot of these brands could think about, is like, what's all the other value besides the product?
Yep. Agreed.
This was something I wanted, we talked a little bit about in the report as well too. And I'm not going to dive all into it, but the concept was, and actually, so this is one of, there's a bold brand, it's called Shea-Ban Ice Cream. Their whole story was, they were a local ice cream shop and not something you would think of subscribing to. They actually had, like, you would go in, you would sit down, and they make custom made ice cream. And when COVID hit, they basically closed up shop. Like without customers coming in, they had no business at all. And so they thought they would try subscriptions, and it turned out that it worked really well. And they actually now are in a much better position than they were pre-COVID, because they've created a community. They've created and they've done a great job at it. They've created a reliable revenue stream. And I'm actually a subscriber. I get my ice cream every month. And someone just posted the links there. But yeah, if you want to check it out. But it actually is a really inspiring story. I would actually encourage everyone to, wherever you're watching, check out the link and watch the video. It's a heartfelt, inspiring story. My question on this is, what have you seen non-traditional brands maybe during COVID, or how has COVID or the pandemic like affected subscriptions in general?
Yeah, I mean, look, e-commerce boomed from it, right? I don't know if it was you or Shopify had the stat. It was like 150 million first-time online purchases. Tremendous. Yeah. 10 years of growth in 3 months. I mean, this is insane. And there's a couple of reasons for it. One, in this case with the Shea-Ban ice cream, they probably were that staple local ice cream shop in the area. And so the community was like, I want this ice cream. Right. So now they give them an opportunity to still get it and get it monthly, which is super smart. right? If you love the ice cream, it's a depleting product. You know that you go through 2-3 pints. So you and your family go through 2-3 pints a month. Well, shoot, I don't want to drive out and get it. It's COVID. Not even that. The convenience, it gets delivered every month. So that makes sense there. But you not only did you have 150 million first-time buyers, you also saw engagement on social media go through the roof, right? People were bored at home. More usage on Facebook, more usage on Instagram, more usage on TikTok. Well, what did that do now? This now brought in more consumers to market in front of, right? And be able to put your brand ads in front of, which would then drive more conversion. So, e-commerce as a whole grew tremendously. Like I said, I think it was 10 years of growth in 3 months, 150 million new first-time buyers. People have now come more comfortable with purchasing online. Brands have gotten better and shipping providers have gotten better about getting things to individuals faster. It makes ordering online easy and convenient. And people, especially with COVID, right? You're trying to limit human exposure. Well, when you order online, right? And that's just been critical.
Yeah. We've seen subscriptions grow quite a bit during COVID. I think a lot of the things you didn't think you'd buy online before, you realize. Well, I've personally realized how annoying it is going to a grocery store and going to because I've gotten so used to ordering online. Like if I have to drive out and waste my time buying cat food or something. So,
oh man.
So
I know exactly what you're saying. I don't even know the last time I shopped for anything. Like I was thinking about this the other day. I had like 12 cases of water delivered to my house. I use like Instacart.
Yeah.
And I was like, who wants to carry these 12 and put them in the cart and put them in the car? I was like, this person just dropped it on my front door. Right. What a convenience. So I'm with you there.
Yeah. This was another quote you had in our report. We are seeing more and more brands pivot to the subscription model. Data is showing us that by 2023, more than 75% of all e-commerce brands will have a subscription arm. Given what has happened with COVID, I predict that will happen even sooner. So this was a report that you did with Gartner Research. Right. What does that mean exactly? 75% of e-commerce brands will have a subscription arm.
Yeah, so this was actually from our 2019 SUBTA annual report. So this is pre-COVID. So I actually think this date is going to be sooner than 2023. I actually think we could see it like by end of 2022. So I mean, but it's close. I think you're going to see it happen sooner. So Gartner was looking at credit card transaction data, and I got some data points here, but it was about at the time, out of the 41 trillion in credit card processing, subscription commerce accounted for 18% of that. And what they were seeing over an aggregate of a compounded annual growth of over 5 years, they were seeing it growing at 17.33%. To give some comparison, Apple's 5-year growth was 9.2%, Microsoft's 7.7%, and Amazon's 20.8%. So think about the growth in Amazon. The subscription economy nearly growing at the same rate, right? And so based on that data, that was telling us that we would see around 75% of all brands have a subscription sort of model within their business, meaning that they might be e-commerce and now they've added a subscription form to it. They might be retail and now added a membership. They might be a restaurant and added a membership. We're going to see, and I think, again, we're doing a 2021 report. Naturally, this has to have been accelerated.
Yeah, it couldn't have slowed down. I just had another interesting data point that from 2012 to 2019, subscription businesses grew 5 times faster than the S&P 500.
Jeez.
Like it's it's an interesting stat. Let me pull up this here so they can see the this was something. Only kind of 2 more slides here, and then there's a bunch of questions that have come in, and we'll jump into some questions. But I found this interesting. This is just some data on basically what this is saying is the longer a subscription business has been in business, the faster their growth rate is. So kind of obvious at first glance, like you would say, yeah, that makes sense. Although not necessarily. Like sometimes as businesses become mature, their growth slows down. Yeah, and it plateaus, and like that kind of does happen with subscription brands, because if you're onboarding 100 new subscribers a month, which is great, but if you have 10% churn, the industry average for churn is 7.05%. But let's say you have 10% churn. If you go to a point where you have 10,000 subscribers and you're losing 100 a month and you're gaining 100 a month, like you plateau, and then you can't buy anymore through Facebook, or you can't buy anymore through Instagram. So you have to rely on other ways to grow, whether that's through referrals, whether that's through ambassadors, through different things. But for some reason, the brands that, because in this survey we asked like how long have you been selling subscriptions, and then growth rate, and we kind of looked at pivot tables and pulled all the data together. So what do you think the mature brands get right that the new ones don't?
I wonder a couple things. One thing that might skew this data is that entering the industry is easy in some cases, right? And so you can start a subscription tomorrow and you don't know a lot about building them. And I think over time, naturally, you get better at it. There isn't like 30 years of data on how to build a subscription business. Yeah. I think that's a big part of it. I think that it's a low entry barrier, right? You got like certain platforms like allow you to build a subscription overnight. And so these brands that have been around longer, they've got more data, they've built more operational, they've got more systems in place. I think naturally the entrepreneur is more established, learned a ton, and is able to build a business that can grow better. Like I said, like, I see so many entrepreneurs that are just like single entrepreneurs that are running a subscription, right? Their growth is slower. They don't have the funding, right? But they were able to start the business. And so I think that's probably a big part of it. Because like you said, as you get larger too, things start to plateau off. It makes it harder to scale in some instances. So, I think it's just time and experience, Jay. It's like, I have tons to learn still in the industry. You have tons to learn still in the industry. And we've been in the industry, right? Like we arguably know a ton. So I think it's over time. I think it's building out the models. I think it's execution of the business. It's also funding, right? Like as you grow and you get bigger, you've got more marketing dollars, you spend it, your growth comes a little bit faster.
Yeah. I think one thing we see that brands get wrong right away, but the mature ones don't, is they launch a subscription program and they think that they're going to just, I call it slap on a subscribe and save option. And they think they're going to be successful. Yeah. Where like the successful subscription brands are actually changing the way they're becoming a subscription org. So they're actually changing the way they operate. And you can spend more to acquire subscribers. You can treat them differently. I mean, it even goes down to referring to them as members and not customers. And right. I mean, your whole accounting process is different. A lot of people say they struggle to account properly revenue when they switch to subscriptions. Banks look at it differently. Like it's not just, oh, now my products have a subscribe option. It's the becoming a subscription org from the inside out. And obviously we're seeing this, that after a period of time, brands are getting it right. So right. I don't know. That's kind of what I take away from that.
It's funny. I call it the field of dreams syndrome. Like they think
right. Yeah.
You build that people will come, and it's not the case, right? Like you gotta do a lot more than that.
Yeah. Let's pull up our last slide. There's been a bunch of questions coming in. Just want to let everyone know that we will get to them right away. I got one more slide I want to show here, and it's kind of similar to the last one, but it's related to churn, and again, it's looking at mature brands versus newer brands, and the drastic difference in involuntary churn and voluntary churn. But the one I really want to focus on was is voluntary churn. Involuntary is when it's credit card declines, it's ways like that, and there is ways that mature brands actually can reduce involuntary churn. There is dunning processes, and by dunning actually one of the big things we're working on with Bold is leveraging AI and machine learning to improve dunning, which is how credit cards are charged and different times of the day, and how it communicates with the gateways. But there is ways to improve that. But the voluntary churn, that's what you think of as a customer just canceling a subscription.
Yep.
They're not happy with it. They're tired with it. They don't perceive the value in it. They don't whatever it is. So I guess first of all, Chris, I want to ask you, what is probably the easiest when brands, you'll never get rid of churn. There's always going to be churn,
right?
But what's one of the biggest things a brand can do to reduce churn or improve retention, whichever way you look at it?
So I think it's the one thing I already talked about. It's make sure that you ask qualifying questions as to why they're canceling and give them another offering to stay on.
Yeah.
And I also actually saw Carnivore Club did this really smart. So when I went to cancel, before I went to cancel, it said, here's an offer to stay on. And it was like, get this free knife in your next box, 20 or 20% off to stay on for your next box, or like something else. But it was good. It was like, oh, like I'll stay on potentially for this. So like give them a reason to stay and show them that there are other options. The other thing too, looking at this data point and thinking about the slide before that, I actually think a biggest reason why the mature companies are seeing longer subscriptions and lower churn is the evolution of the product. I think over time, they're making a better product and they're learning from, like, the good brands are taking feedback from the consumers, learning more about the product and making a better one. And that's just getting them to stay on. And I saw this happen firsthand with Gentleman's Box. When we pivoted from a monthly to a quarterly, because we found out the consumer feedback was, I have too many socks and ties. Not only did I get a higher quality consumer because they were spending more on the first purchase, but my LTV ended up being 6x on the quarterly versus monthly.
Versus that's actually one of the questions that someone asked was, what do you recommend? I think the way they phrased it was, 1 month, 3 month, 6 month, as far as lengths of subscription. So you're in the quarterly camp?
Well, so I think it depends on the product, right? So if it's a Discover Delight, the FatFitFun, the Ipsy, the Gentleman's Box, the Battle Box, I'm a big advocate of quarterly. If it's replenished, then it should be based on the cadence. Like you're more likely going to see the monthly, the Dollar Shave Clubs, the food, and the things where you need it monthly. Like Hunt to Killer, like does it really good every month. They send you a new like part of the story of solving the murder. I mean, this is really smart, right?
Yeah.
So I think if you're Discover Delight, I'm a huge advocate of quarterly. I think that if you're replenishment, then you're monthly or whatever the cadence might be.
Yeah. I think there's also economies of scale too, right? So like if you call this economies or efficiencies, when you're quarterly, you're spending 2 months not shipping things out every day. Like even if you're doing monthly, I'm a big proponent of doing a fixed day subscription. So if it's the 15th of every month or the 1st of every month, because then you're shipping everything on the same day to your customers. Basically all your customers will be getting that product within 5 to 10 days of that day. So you're going to be doing all your customer service from the 5th to the 10th of the month. And then from the 10th to the 30th, you can be building. Versus if you're shipping every single day, you're kind of answering, where's my order, or, all month long. Yeah.
There's I could argue both ways. I'll tell you why the quarterly is a dream though. You're curating 4 boxes a year instead of 12. You've got 3 months to sell out versus 1. Right? Like these are huge benefits to the business. I don't mind the anniversary billing, Jay, because with the anniversary billing, it actually spreads out. Like, because Gentleman's Box used to be a renewal on the 10th. Well, thinking about getting the crew in for building out 10,000 boxes a week before, that's kind of rough. The customer service you got to double down on the customer service during that time too. So having it spread out isn't horrible. And you also help against the customer service when somebody signs up on the 27th and then they get hit again on the 10th. And they're like, wait a minute, I just got the first box. Now you're hitting me up with another renewal. So there's a good argument, I think, between, like, I could argue why both is good.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's worth experimenting. I think and what you did with Gentleman's Box makes sense. You experimented, you saw higher LTV, lower churn, and it doesn't never hurts to test things, because every brand and every product is going to be different.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I'd like to jump into some questions here. Let me actually, just before we do that, just want to let you guys know. So we're going to be doing a couple webinars. We kind of touched a few topics, but some of the webinars coming up, and again, diving into this report, is we're going to be diving into strategies for attracting the right type of subscribers, diving a little bit deeper into retaining, reducing churn, and then using insights and diving deep into metrics. And actually, I know one of the questions here, someone's asking about KPIs, so we'll get into that a little bit, but one of the whole webinars, we're actually going to be diving quite deep into that. So, just keep your eye out on emails and our social media, and we'll make sure you are aware of those. With that said, there's a few questions I'd love to dive into here. So let me pull up a few. Chris, you got time to take a couple?
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
Why don't we actually start with the metrics one? Like, when you were running, someone's asking what are some of your key metrics? Like, when you were running Gentlemen's Club, what kept you up at night and what stressed you out, and what were you excited about as far as your metrics?
I mean, CAC and LTV are really critical. Understanding your LTV allows you to make better marketing decisions, allows you to identify how you can spend your money. I also
Let's go back a sec, just for anyone, just define CAC and LTV.
So CAC would be your customer acquisition cost, so how much you're paying for a customer to acquire them. And your LTV is your lifetime value. So identifying how much you're actually making every time you get a new customer. There's too many brands that don't know this number, or either calculating it wrong or just haven't even tried to calculate it. It's very, very important that number is identified, because you don't want to spend your marketing dollars too wildly. You also need to make sure that you're understanding what those metrics look like by sort of marketing campaign. For example, you might run a marketing campaign that's targeting a certain demographic, and you offered a really high discount to sign up, and you got all excited because you got 1,000 new customers that month. But come to find out, they all churned within 3 months. Yeah. Well, that's not very good, right? And your customer acquisition cost to your LTV is not a good, healthy ratio. Two very important metrics is LTV and customer acquisition costs. And then I put metrics around like customer service. What's your average response time? I'm a big customer service advocate. From the hours of 9 to 5, I think brands should be responding within 10 minutes. And I think people recognize when that happens. After hours, I think 24 hours is fine, but I'm a big stickler of it. I think it's super important for a brand to provide a high quality of service, because again, you need to give them an experience they couldn't get on a retail level. When somebody walks into a retail store, somebody's readily available to answer questions generally if they're a good business. When 150 people hit a website at the same time, like, I don't care how many chat bots you have, they're not all getting attention, right? And so we need to make sure we're touching them all.
Yeah, I heard a really good quote the other day. I was just actually pulling it up. It was, in a world where the accessible customer base is large and distribution cost is low or next to nothing, the internet, customer service experiences will determine who wins. That was from Ben Thompson. It's easy to copy anything. It's easy to copy any brand. It's customer service is actually the hardest part to replicate. And one of the key metrics, I think it was you talking about this one time, is you said you tracked, or you were encouraging stores to track, was, did you call it like the happiness metric? I can't remember, was surveying.
Yeah.
So surveying customers after they get the product.
The sad face and the middle face.
Well, I think there's something to be said for like early warning signs of churn, right? Like if every month they get their box and it was like, how did you like it this month? And it can just be as simple as thumbs up, thumbs down, and if it's thumbs down, maybe you ask them why and learn a bit more, but maybe you can get out ahead.
If it's a thumbs down, it's a trigger to customer service right away. So they can get ahead and reach out to the person. Hey, we saw you click thumbs down. What can we do? Did something happen during shipping? How can we make this experience better for you? You want to have proactive retention. And a way to do that is when you survey your customer, if they rate your box a 4 out of 10, or they rate your service a 4 out of 10, trigger customer service immediately and get somebody from that team reaching out to that customer.
Yeah, I think a metric that I would say is really important to track is find a way to track the satisfaction of the box every month. And also customer referrals. So I think, I don't know where I stand fully on the net promoter score. Like, how likely are you to recommend this to someone? Most people just end up picking a 7, and I don't know. Some people say that that's the ultimate stat. Some people not, but actually track where your
said that.
you pick
a bunch of times.
I always pick a 7.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's interesting.
Yeah. But what you should do is have a yes or a no, and you get a more honest answer. And there's different debates about it. I mean, if you go on Twitter and search like NPS score, and you'll get both camps. But what I think really does matter is, are people actually referring your customers? And so when someone subscribes, somewhere in the flow, ask them, how did you find out about us? How did you come to buying this product? And if it's 7% of your people your customers heard about the product from a friend, okay, that's not very good, but that's a start. And at least now you have a bar. Now try to get that to 9%, get that to 30%. I think if you have a business that's doing 40%, 30 or 40% customer referral, you're going to be hockey stick and hockey stick growth. Because then every new customer you get, it multiplies, and it's like a viral coefficient. And so find ways to, give your subscribers each like 2 coupon codes, or 2, even just hand like a printed certificate that they get in the box that they can give to 2 people that they get their first month free. Some crazy
offer. Don't be afraid to give them a good offer. Like, you see some brands are paying $80 to acquire a customer on Facebook, and then they say that the referral program is, we give you a $5 discount and we give you $5 credit. Like, let's like, you can spend 80. So make the incentive good, right?
Yeah. And that goes down to what you just said about, you need to know your customer acquisition cost, know your LTV, and then you can spend accordingly.
Yep.
Let's grab one more question. There's a lot. And just so everyone knows, if I wasn't able to get to all the questions here, we're a little bit over time already. We'll answer them in the live, or like whatever medium you asked them on, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever it was. If you could give one tip to make my subscription business grow sustainably and overcome subscriber saturation, what would it be?
Well, what do you think they mean by subscriber saturation?
I'm guessing they're getting to a point where kind of what I taught, the subscription death curve, where you're not onboarding as many new customers as are churning. So you just plateau.
So this is the most important piece of advice they said.
What is one piece of advice? Or no, I can't remember the exact wording. What is the most important piece of advice?
I mean, I think it's.
I can tell you. I can.
Yeah, I was going to say. Well, you'll say after. Tell me yours afterwards. But I think like having diversified top of the funnel traffic is probably pretty critical. When you're dependent on just Facebook, then you're at their mercy if an algorithm changes or a target demographic gets stale. But I think it needs to come in like so many forms, right? It's like you need to make sure that you're putting time into referrals, like you said, media spend, influencer, content, organic, right? Like, we need to have this traffic diversified, not strictly dependent on one medium, because that's when it gets saturated and when you start to plateau.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I would challenge everyone listening right now to think about the value that their customers are perceiving in the subscription, and try to make it 3x. So if they're paying $29 a month for something, how do you get them to feel like they're getting $90 worth of value? Like, if I had to put a number on what I feel I'm getting from my Amazon Prime membership, it's probably like $300 a month. Like, if I had to think about, well, maybe not $300 a year. Sorry. Like, if I think about how much I would be paying for the Prime Video by itself, how much would I pay for every box that got shipped? How much would I pay for the photo storage? How much would I pay for everything else? If I had to put a number on it, I would probably pay $300 a year, but I'm only paying $99 a year. So it's 3 times the value.
See the value there. Yeah, it
Yeah,
makes it a no-brainer for you. You'll never cancel.
exactly. So that's a big one. And the customer referral is probably having that as a metric and a healthy, one of the healthiest ways of acquisition. I think that creates such a healthy business, that then if something changes with Facebook, something changes with Google, something changes with it's happening with new iOS now and pixel tracking, and you can't target them the same way you could a few months ago, or soon you won't be able to. There's no one can ever take away your customers, that like they are your main marketing channel. And I just think most people don't leverage them as much as they should be. That would be the one thing I would say.
For sure.
Chris, let's I'm a bit over time here already. There's a bunch more questions. I want to thank everyone that's been watching. This has been really good. We're going to have a few more of these. Just stay tuned to all our channels. We'll be emailing everyone else. Chris, man, thank you so much for you coming on, and honestly, like, for all you're doing for the subscription industry. It's one of the things I'm so passionate about is that subscription businesses, I think, are healthier businesses. Like if you build a business doing $1 million a year of one-time sales, you have roughly a business worth $200,000 or $300,000. Like if you were to sell it, because it's a multiple of EBITDA. You build a recurring revenue business, and it's a multiple of top line annual revenue, right? Like if you're doing $1 million a year in subscriptions, you have a business worth $7 to $8 million. Like it just
accelerates when you hit over like 10 million a year in ARR too. Like the number just like starts to accelerate, and the multiplier starts to accelerate. So you're spot on there.
We are seeing investment in a lot of the brands that are using both subscriptions, and we see like the investment community is starting to take note of it. And so I love that it helps people build valuable companies, and it just drastically affects your life. And I just think that SUBTA is doing such amazing work. And for everyone watching, definitely check out SUBTA. Become a member. Like honestly, if it's not worth $10 a month, then you probably shouldn't be doing subscriptions. But it might be the best membership you ever buy. Man, you guys must have low churn. Speaking of churn. So,
we're working. Yeah, hopefully.
Right? Yeah, there you go.
But no, Jay, I appreciate it. I'm so happy to be on. I love what you're doing in the industry, continuously being innovative, being such a huge supplier to the industry. You've got so many merchants on there, and so many of them are members of ours. And that you're continuously innovating is great, because that's making this industry better and helping them build a better business. So happy to be on. I appreciate your support to SUBTA. I love it. You're so great. You're so supportive. And hopefully I get to see you in Dallas this year, which by the way, if I get I'll get a quick Sub Summit plug. Sub Summit is this year, September 21st to the 23rd in Dallas. We didn't get in person in 2020, but we're ready to get back this year. So hopefully we can see a lot of you out there.
Yeah, just imagine how much you can learn being around 1,000+ people who all are running a subscription business. Just the conversations you'll have at dinner, plus all the good content that SUBTA puts out. Definitely worth checking out. All right, thanks everyone for watching, and we'll make sure that this goes out to everyone by email. You'll get a full copy of it, and we look forward to seeing you on some of our future webinars. Thanks again, Chris.
Of course. Thanks, everybody.